Not only am I a fan of the Houston Rockets, but I am also a New Orleans Pelicans fan. But hey, as of late, I guess you could say that things are looking up. I'm sure you guys are at least somewhat curious about how these fandoms happen, so I'll give you a really short backstory. As a kid, I would be born in New Orleans. Shortly after being born in New Orleans, maybe about 5 or 6 years, my dad would get offered a job. That job would take him all the way out to Houston. So yeah, now I stay in Houston, but check it out. New Orleans didn't always have a basketball team. So back when they did not have a basketball team, I was a Rockets fan. The Rockets were the first team that I truly grew to love. The Yao Ming and Tracy McGrady days will always have a special place in my heart. It's crazy how injuries work. It's crazy how we can sit here and look back at some great teams that we thought would accomplish more, only for those teams to not accomplish nearly as much as we thought that they would accomplish. If you go to tankathon.com, you'll find not only the New Orleans Pelicans, but also the Houston Rockets in the top 10 for best odds for the #1 overall pick. Again, I know things are looking up, but it's crazy that we're not even 30 games into the season, and I'm looking at Tankathon. You know what? Even if the Rockets had went on to become the worst team in NBA history, I would have never been mad for 2 reasons. One, I think there's beauty in the process. But actually, you know what? Hold on. Maybe I should stop, because as I'm recording this, the Rockets hold what is the biggest win streak in the NBA. A lot of people wanted to count out the Houston Rockets, but I didn't. If you manufacture a winner and you sign a bunch of players and you're a super team, yeah, that's cool. But it's not necessarily for me, and I've grown to accept that. I like watching players and teams grow. I know that there are some Lakers fans that rocked with the Lakers much more back in the ZO2 days than they do in the LeBron James days. And while that seems crazy to me, I definitely understand where they're coming from. There's beauty in the struggle, and there is a lot of beauty in growth. Now, the second reason that I would have never been mad about the Houston Rockets being flat out horrific is that if you're going to be bad, be bad. Get that pick. Shout out to my guy, Sam Hinkie. He understood the mission and he proceeded with the process until the NBA stepped in and ruined everything. How many times do we see bad teams win games, especially towards the end of the season, to play themselves out of ping pong balls? Say what you will about the Houston Rockets short term. For the long term, I have a whole lot of hope. In the 2021 NBA draft, the Houston Rockets would go on to select Jalen Green.
The Houston Rockets select Jalen Green from Merced, California.
They would pass on Evan Mobley, Scotty Barnes, Josh Giddey. Yeah, all of those guys, they said, screw it, give me Green. While Jalen Green has had a very hot and cold season, it's hard to be mad at the pick. The talent is there, and as a matter of fact, I love the Jalen Green pick. I don't care that he's shooting 37.2% from the field and 27.4% from the three-point line. Actually, I'm lying. I care a little bit, but check it out. This guy's only 19 years old, and he's doing things like this in the NBA against Anthony Davis and the Los Angeles Lakers in the clutch.
Back to Green. Green now stepping left, another looping triple. Jalen Green does it again.
Don't get it wrong. The efficiency for Jalen Green could be much better, but the talent is there, and so is the excitement. In the comments below, let me know who you guys feel like is going to be the best player out of this draft class. Also, let me know who you guys feel like is going to be the second best player out of this draft class. Jalen Green has the handles, he has the hops, he has the swagger, he just has to put everything together. Speaking of putting things together, that's exactly what the Houston Rockets have done. But look, I'd be lying if I said they still didn't have a long ways to go, and that this whole process has been easy. When Stephen Silas arrived in Houston, he thought he was going to get the opportunity to coach Russell Westbrook and James Harden. Westbrook would be the focal point for a John Wall trade, and my guy James Harden would go on to get traded to the Brooklyn Nets for a whole bunch of things that I'm not going to get into this video, because that's a whole nother convo for another video that I'm actually going to bring you guys in the near future. But yeah, no James Harden, no John Wall, no problem, right? Wrong. With no James Harden and no John Wall, all of the expectations for the Houston Rockets would head out of the window. I say this a lot. I feel like when you're coaching great talent, you are always on the hot seat. There's nothing like expectations in today's NBA. A lot of coaches don't get the chance to fail. They don't get the chance to figure things out. It's ironic that I say that because at the same time, there are coaches who get chance after chance after chance. While Harden's departure would be an absolute mess, so would the arrival of John Wall's contract. John Wall is due nearly $50 million next season. The more that I say it, the crazier that it sounds. As I am making this video, John Wall has not played 1 minute this season for the Houston Rockets. September 15th, it was reported that John Wall and the Houston Rockets would agree to a mutual separation. The key word here being mutual. When I saw this report, followed by reports that John Wall would be sitting out games and missing a ton of time, I didn't think much of it because I thought that everything was mutual. And look, while there is a chance that things were mutual, I'm just going to say that things have gotten a whole lot worse since these initial reports. As of late, I've been seeing more and more John Wall slander. Slander that is coming in the form of memes, in the form of tweets, in the form of basically, look, I don't know anything. October 27th, Charles Barkley even got in on it, saying that this dude is getting a $100 million contract to sit at home, and I'm down here working like a dog for peanuts. And guys, this is just the beginning. Trust me, things get much worse. Everything that has occurred in Houston this past year has been wild. We've seen players like Christian Wood become frustrated about touches, only to become incredibly passive the next game to not necessarily prove a point, but maybe to show frustration. I'm not going to go super deep into it this video because we still have a ton to cover, but if you guys would like me in future videos, I definitely got you. Just drop a comment saying that you want a full breakdown of this situation down in the comments below. Now guys, don't get it confused. This is not me slandering Christian Wood. I am an OG Christian Wood supporter. This guy is a beast, and when he's locked in and playing his game, he can be flat out dominant. Oh yeah, and don't get me started on if you give him, KPJ, or Jalen Green space to operate. I really do hate that it had to be this way, Tice. The Rockets really do confuse me because it's like, play your vets and give John Wall a shot, or unleash Şengün and some of the other guys on the team that have not been getting the minutes that they deserve. Look, I'm not going to sit here and call Şengün baby Jokic, but what I will say is that my guy has been absolutely killing it. It's crazy to me that one of the Rockets' best playmakers is their rookie big man, but I guess it's really not that crazy when you consider that Şengün is doing things like this. To be short, Şengün does a whole lot of things well on the basketball floor. According to Kelly Eco NBA, the Rockets are plus 11.2 points per 100 possessions better with Şengün on the floor. That's in the 91st percentile in the NBA. Might I remind you that the Rockets are currently where in the standings? While I think Tice is a fine basketball player, I think it's really important for Şengün to get the proper minutes that he deserves at this point in his career. Şengün is already averaging 9 points per game, 5 rebounds per game, 2 assists, and I know that number is going to go up while shooting 47.5% from the field and 38.9% from the three-point line. Dude is nice. You have to love the young talent on the roster for the Houston Rockets amidst all of this mess. While we're on the topic of point guards and facilitating, I simply can't get on the KPJ point guard bandwagon. It's kind of ironic and very funny to me that the Rockets kind of remind me of the Cavs from a few years ago. A lot of talent, especially at the guard position. Then there were disgruntled vets. Yes, I am thinking about Kevin Love. Kevin Love let it be known that the team needed to work the ball around more. He looked like he hated playing basketball for that team. While we're talking Cavs, shout out to Darius Garland. That guy could play make back then, and he still can now. He just needed a little more help. That's why the Cavs went out and got Ricky Rubio, who has been amazing this season. I really do think that Garland is going to be a star, and I do think that he's somebody that has superstar potential. Speaking of potential, I would love to be wrong, and KPJ has made some nice passes on occasion and proved people wrong before, but I need to see KPJ playmaking at a very high level for a long time before I really believe it. Because look, if KPJ adds playmaking to his bag to the point to where he's doing this playmaking stuff consistently, the NBA better watch out. And you know what? I was a little hard on KPJ's playmaking before, but it is worth noting that the Suns did something similar with Devin Booker. And of course, Devin Booker is now a better playmaker from logging a good bit of minutes at the point guard position earlier in his career. Shout out to the feel-good triple-double though for KPJ, because you really do love to see it, even if he did only shoot 4 of 17 from the field. Hey man, just ask Russell Westbrook. A triple-double is a triple-double at the end of the day. That's a joke, please don't get mad. While we're talking about jokes, they actually took away KPJ's triple-double. November 22nd, Chris Mannix tweeted out that the John Wall situation is pretty wild. He's traveling with the Rockets, sitting on the bench in uniform, but isn't playing. I don't know how that benefits the Rockets or Wall at all. John Wall replied to this tweet that he did not dress. And then John Wall would quote tweet that he was getting punished for something that he could not control. What does this mean? I'm glad you asked. This means that John Wall feels like he is being punished for his contract. John Wall wants to play basketball. The weird thing to me is that the Rockets are playing vets at this moment. They're playing these guys adequate minutes. And if you're going to play vets, then you might as well see what John Wall can do. And maybe if John Wall was able to put together a good season this season, he could have raised his trade value. Now look, I get it. He's probably on an untradeable contract, but Chris Paul was also deemed untradeable until we saw what he could do with a young Oklahoma City Thunder team. Now, apples to oranges, and I get it. We already saw Wall in a Rockets uniform. Even if you don't believe that John Wall would be better this season than he was last season, I still think that he brings some things to the table. For example, Jalen Green has credited John Wall for being an amazing veteran leader. Imagine how hard that is for John Wall, who is probably feeling very neglected by the Houston Rockets. Having a vet leader on the floor and with the team can go a very long way. I really do believe that it would be better for Jalen Green to play with a real NBA point guard as opposed to playing with KPJ running the show, just so he can get a better feel for how the game is going to flow in the future. And on top of that, there's a chance that he may get some easier looks and develop better habits. These early years for young players are so important. Reportedly, there's been no traction on the John Wall trade, and unfortunately, the Miami Heat would only be interested in Wall if he was bought out. Now, as of late, there have been reports coming out, just like this one, that say that John Wall sees himself as a number one option on the Rockets. Should he return, that's the main issue. He knows the team is rebuilding, but he also wants to have the green light at all times. These reports are incredibly condescending. John Wall has seen these reports, and he actually replied to one of them saying, LOL, that's a lie. While I did play the advocate earlier in the video, I think I understand what the Rockets are doing by playing their vets. They're trying to pull an old Oklahoma City Thunder, raise a player's value, and then ship said player off for assets, allowing your younger players to get more minutes as the season goes on. I've been somewhat hard on the Rockets and Silas, but you guys have to understand that's one of my teams, and I just got a lot of love for them. Even if a guy like Eric Gordon doesn't. On Twitter, Eric Gordon liked a tweet that said, "What did I deserve to get these guys as our coach?" Referring to the Rockets coaches. That's pretty brutal, man. But still not as brutal as the Rockets winning games and us still not getting John Wall. Even Jalen Green has jumped in on the free John Wall bandwagon. Don't believe me? Just check out this IG story then. I have a good feeling that regardless of what anybody says about how things are going in Houston, the John Wall will be back sooner as opposed to later. You guys really thought Jay Shante and Garrison Matthews weren't going to get a shout out this video? Come on, man. I look forward to see where the Houston Rockets go from here, especially considering that when this happened with Anthony Davis and the New Orleans Pelicans, the league stepped in and said, hey, you guys have to play AD. He is too good to not play. I definitely think we'll be seeing John Wall on the floor again soon. I can't wait to see this guy playing basketball at a high level again. It's crazy how fast people forget. Clicking the video on the screen right now is a great way to support my channel. I'm Get Like Coop, bringing you guys the scoop until our next upload.